This isn't going to be an easy video to make, but how are you guys doing? Mainly the guys. How are you feeling? As Men's Mental Health Month comes to a wrap, the issue of mental health has presented itself in my life in a way that I just couldn't ignore. Many people will talk about men and emotions and say that it's not really the world's fault for not caring about men, it's men's fault for not opening up to the world. And some people may agree with that, but I don't really agree with it at all. Men kinda are taught to not talk about anything, not open up to anyone, and any sign of weakness is taken for advantage. It's the reason you see people on YouTube in real life telling you that being nice is not a good personality trait. Rather, it's a weakness that you can't hide, and you should stop acting nice before someone takes advantage of you. Even if you believe that train of thought, for a second, I ask you to put your guard down. Over this past week, I think it was about Tuesday, I received a call from somebody from my home country, my extended family, and they were wondering where their son was. This caught me off guard because I usually don't handle these calls. This goes to my mom. I don't really talk to people back home because I don't speak the language as well, and you know, that's like older folk conversation. I wasn't too familiar with the lady that was calling. All I knew was her son came to America about 10 years ago, and from then we didn't have really any contact, but I heard through the grapevine that he was doing pretty well anytime he was brought up. So when she asked me where her son was, my stomach automatically proceeded to drop. The pain of a mother not knowing where her only child, that's not even in the same country as her, is kind of sent a chill through my spine because I know how my mom would react if she couldn't get in contact with me. And you know, I told her I'm not sure where he is, but I'll ask my mom to ask around and see if maybe he's just out of town or can't get to his phone. And I could hear her starting to cry over the phone, but she tried to keep it together and she said, "Thank you, we love you, and you know, let me know as soon as you can." So after I hung up the phone with her, I called my mom, I tell her the situation, and my mom's like, "Oh, that's very weird. We just heard from him the other day. Everything should be okay, but let me ask around." It was pretty early in the day when I got the call, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock. So I went on with my day like everything was normal. I just couldn't get it out of my head that this mom couldn't get in contact with her son. I come back about 9 o'clock. I see everybody in the house and they're watching TV. I don't think much of it, but I just have to ask my mom, "Hey, did you find out anything about where he was?" And the pause before answering the question kind of told me everything I knew, and that sinking feeling that I felt in my stomach that had went away throughout the day came back quicker than I could understand. There's something about the moments right before you get bad news that almost hit harder than the bad news, because you know what you're about to hear is going to change the course of your day, week, month, whatever it may be, but you just don't know how severe what you're going to hear is. My mom got up from the couch, sat at the dinner table and said, "Yeah, it's not really looking good." She went on to tell me that he wasn't missing at all, but he was in Grady Hospital. And I hate hospitals, but when she went on to tell me why he was in the hospital, I kind of absolutely felt terrible. She told me that he's been checked in, he was in critical condition, and they weren't sure if he was gonna make it. And I wish I never asked, but I asked what happened. She told me that the police found him in a random parking lot, pretty much passed away with a fainting pulse, with what looked to be a self-inflicted wound. The police said that it was lucky that they even found him because he was in the most obscure parking lot that they didn't even see. They just saw a car sitting there and felt the need to ask maybe why they were there, but he was checked into the hospital with not much chances of making it. When I say I wish I never asked why it happened, it's because when I hear things like this, it hits too close to home. As somebody who has never come really close to doing anything like that to themselves, the pressures and why someone would do it make a lot of sense, especially kind of understanding how the male lifestyle works. This guy has been in the States for 10 years, and in 10 years, he's changed his life more than anybody could have really expected. He's gotten a bunch of certifications, he went to school, he became a truck driver, he was about to own his own dispatch company. And the last photo I saw of him was him smiling ear to ear for his certification photo. Everybody knew how hard he worked, and that's all you heard when you asked about him. He's so determined, he works so hard, he's always focused on his next goal. So to see the report that he came to a parking lot and decided that nothing else was worth it anymore was hard to grapple with, but not to understand. With his condition being so bad, after we slept that night and woke up, we called the hospital to check on his status, and we had word that he had officially passed away. If there's any question that I could ask him, it's the question that I ask all my friends today, how are you? A question that seems very surface to many, but for men is one of the only times we talk about how we're feeling or how our day is even going. I hate to just come on here and be like, men have it so hard, but there's just a weird thing that comes with being a man. You don't just live life to live it. You live a performance-based life, and how much you can give is the direct result of how much you'll be cared for or respected or taken seriously. When I hear stories of men not choosing to be on this planet anymore, it makes me wonder if there was ever a cry for help, because while we don't verbally ask for help, you can tell it in how a guy carries himself. You get swallowed up by apathy, your face lacks emotion, maybe even color. Life doesn't seem like a game you're playing to succeed in, but just one that you're holding on to progress the wheel forward a little bit more each day. And a lot of the times it's not for yourself. When I think about his case, I see how hard he was working, but how unhappy he was under the surface. And like a lot of people that come from my country, I always wonder if the success is for yourself or for your family back home. Because while it's tough to hear that he did this to himself, it's not hard to understand why. America is seen as like the land at the hill. It's the golden house with nothing but wealth and pleasure. But for a lot of people, even people who are born and live here, we know that it's really not that. There's a lot of struggle, there's a lot of inequality, there's a lot of pain that people in other countries wouldn't understand because we live different lives. That's not to say we have it harder than other people. It does come with a lot of privilege, but you do face a lot of isolation at the same time. And for him, you can't see your mother, you can't see the friends you grew up your entire life with, you can't see the people that you built deep connections with. You're just planted into this country and you have nothing but to focus on but success. But success doesn't give you a hug when you're feeling lonely. It doesn't talk you out of your irrational decisions. It doesn't let you know that you matter on a day where it's nothing but rain clouds. There's so much research and medicines and things for mental health that many people don't want to take advantage of or see fit for themselves because they don't view themselves as somebody that would ever make that decision. And knowing this guy is from the same culture that I'm from, he probably was the same way. He never thought that he would enter these shoes or ever be put in a position to make a choice that would be so permanent. And maybe a few years ago or at a point in time, he was happy and wouldn't have done these things. I mean, we can always wonder of different outcomes, but I wonder if he would have done what he did if he saw his mother that morning, if he felt closer to the life that he was living now than the one that he left behind. And when people choose this route or this option, a lot of times it's met with ridicule or shame or how could you do this to your family? But nobody really understands why you ever make this decision. I mean, it's not easy to make that decision. There's a quote from Albert Camus where he says, "People always assume that people make this decision for one reason, but is it quite possible to make this decision for two reasons?" I'm kind of changing the words in that quote for this video, but take that into consideration. Many people think it's because you don't want to be here anymore, but it could be for that. It could also be that you are tired of living up to expectations. You're tired coming to a home that's empty. You're tired of being seen as valuable or an asset rather than a full person. And I think for men, this thought process and making this decision isn't really far off for many people. I mean, we all know the stats that we do this at a higher rate than anybody else. We know the stats for men mental health is not great, but it's hard to talk about it because a lot of us have these thoughts all the time. It's not unique to a person who makes a decision. I mean, another Albert Camus quote that sticks in my head since I was a kid is, "Thoughts of ending it have gotten me through many bad nights." And that's the male psyche. It's hard to understand, but when the pressure builds up, it's hard to deal with. But for all those nights that we've ever thought about ending it, we know that just in a few moments, that could all change. You can wake up and have a day where the sun is brighter than it's ever been, and the flowers are smelling greater than they've ever smelled. And you feel the urge to wave past everybody that walks by you, even if they don't reciprocate that same energy. Because like a switch of a light, the hope flickers on and off, and sometimes it stays off for a long time. And those times are the ones that no one really teaches you how to get through, and the times that a permanent solution for temporary problems seems like the route to take. And I wish he would have told somebody. I wish he would have expressed the grief that he was going through or the pain that was on his heart every night. But maybe it's just the blue pill in me, but I wish he would have called his mother that morning. I wish someone would have noticed the pain in his eyes before it was all too late. But you can't rewrite the past. And now all we can hope for is that his mom and family don't take this too hard. And I know that is crazy to say, but I hope she doesn't blame herself. I hope the guilt of the situation doesn't eat her life away too. I've attempted to call back home and send my best wishes, but she's too distraught to even talk on the phone, and I can't blame her. I hope that you keep his family in your prayers as well, or your thoughts if you're not religious. And if you're a guy going through these same struggles, feeling like the only option is to leave this planet, if you're a man having the same thoughts that he did, I ask you to just hang on for one more day, one more smile, one more meal. You may already be doing it for the people around you, but I promise you that it does get better. This is a cliche that everybody says, but if I look back at my childhood or my early adulthood and I see some of the moments where I drove out to the middle of nowhere and had thoughts that I may not make it till next year, I would have missed so much of the best moments of my life, some of the greatest people I've crossed paths with, and some of the hardest struggles that made me think of life in a different way. I don't know if life gets easier, and many people say that it really doesn't. You gain more responsibilities, you have more things to accomplish, and you start growing at an even faster rate. But I think some of the trials and tribulations you face in your life, when you understand where you're coming from, help you process what you're dealing with. And when you feel at your lowest, when you feel like there's no more of you to give, and when the only option is to go to that door, that's usually when your greatest breakthrough comes through. You may have heard all this before, but I promise you, you hear these things often because they're wisdom that are passed down through centuries. And I'm not going to say that people care, because there is a huge social stigma around men's mental health and just really being a man that even expresses those things. And if the world chooses not to care or play it down and act like it's not a big problem, then at least you know someone cares, and I really hope you don't make that choice.